Hey y'all. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I had to get everyone dinner. You guys know that mom life. I will give you a few minutes to pop on. Today's live stream coming at you now that I can talk. Oh, it's so nice. So nice to not be like completely dying. That was hell. I've never had the flu, I think. I don't think I've ever had the flu. And I just got over it. And it sucks. So, pull this up so I can see your comments, because you all know that I'm blind. And we will get started. So, hello. Welcome. When you pop on, say hi, and let me know where you're watching from. I've got like tons and tons of new friends, so I'd love to know who is seeing this. Feel free to share this out if you are loving what I'm vibing. Okay, so for those of you who are new, I am Karen Terrace. I am a pleasurable parenting and sensual motherhood coach. I have 3 gorgeous children. I am married. I love everything about my life. And it's my mission to teach moms how to enjoy being a mom and enjoy every second that you can. And even when you're not enjoying it, like what it is you can do to flip that around. Because there's no reason for us to go through life with mom shame and mom guilt and just like resentment towards our kids and anger towards our husbands and why is he acting this way and this, that, and the other. So that's what I do. So this live stream is brought to you by influenza. Which is really funny to say, but it's true. So, I'm sure you guys have been seeing, I don't usually post like a lot about my personal, well, that's not true. I don't usually like post like, hey, I'm at the ER, things like that. First of all, I've never been to the ER. The only time I've ever been to the ER was for myself when I was pregnant with my first son, so like 2008, and it was because I was like extremely dehydrated. And then the next time I went to the hospital was when I gave birth to him. And since then, I haven't been inside of a hospital, well, for myself or for any of my children. And my oldest son, he never had anything wrong with him. The only time he had an emergency situation, he had an abscess. And I wasn't even the one that took him to Instacare because it happened when I was in labor with my second child, so I couldn't do anything. My parents ended up taking him to Instacare and then to the dentist the next day for his abscess, which was crazy that he was getting an abscess when I was in labor. And then my middle son, nothing really ever wrong with him. And my daughter, she's 18 months old. Last month was the first time I had ever been inside of an Instacare as a parent, and it was for her. She had gotten like a little piece of string wrapped around her toe. It was super scary, but they were able to cut it off and her toe's fine. But yesterday I found myself sitting in the ER at Primary Children's Hospital because my toddler, my cute little almost 4-year-old, had a fever of 105. And for those of you who are parents, you know that 104 and 105 are like the magic numbers. If it's that high, you're supposed to like call 911 or bring him to the hospital immediately. So that's what I did. I brought him into the ER. And what is an ER? It's, unless you're bleeding all over the place, it's a hurry up and wait game, right? We sit around, we go in, we get checked in, we make sure his temperature is okay. They had me say if he was getting any hotter to let them know. He got a little hotter, they gave him some ibuprofen. And then we were just like waiting for about an hour, maybe even longer. We were just waiting in the ER. And when I first got there, I obviously didn't really care about the other kids or the other parents or anything else. I was just worried about my little guy. And I did notice that there were like some kids playing with these little like cars that they had provided at the hospital, like the ones that you can get inside, like the old school ones, right, that have like the yellow top and the red bottom and the eyes. Like I have one in my backyard. So I was like, oh, that's cute, something for the kids to do. And I didn't really think about it. And so I get my kid kind of settled, and he was sleepy, so he was kind of just taking a nap on me. And and then and that was it. Like, everyone's just doing their own thing. Parents are on cell phones, kids are playing. Like, no one was bothering anyone. I wasn't annoyed by anything. And then all of a sudden, I hear this mom be like, whatever her kid's name is, Asher, I think. Asher! There we are. There we go. Oh my god. I don't understand why that happens. Sorry, guys. This mom starts yelling at her kids. So there was one kid, like the 2-year-old, the littlest one, who's like holding something on his hand. Maybe he's got a burn or cut or whatever, but he's like holding this ice pack, something on his hand. And then he's got his older 2 siblings in the ER with him. And then the mom. So obviously this is a mom who has little backup and resources, didn't have anyone else who could come it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock, so it was after school on a Tuesday. Tuesday? What day is it? Yeah, on a Tuesday to watch her other kids, because I would never bring my other 2 children to the emergency room. Like, maybe I would have to bring them there, but I luckily have plenty of friends, and my parents are here locally that I could call to come and quickly swoop up whatever other 2 children needed to not be at the ER, because I wouldn't want those kids exposed to all the shit that's at the ER, right? Like, my son was there, he had influenza. RSV is a really big problem here in Utah because we do have so many kids, and the littlest ones, like, they start not being able to breathe. That's a huge problem this time of year. So she just had her kids there like she was waiting in a regular doctor's office, is what, like, the vibe, And she was just sitting there on her phone, whatever, the way that a lot of moms are, just scrolling on Facebook or checking emails or, wasting time. And her kids, again, were not bothering anyone. There was another cute little guy who was walking around like, hey guys, where are my guys? He was so sweet and so cute. And they were all just playing together so nicely. And then, literally for no reason that I could see, like, no kids started screaming, like, nothing happened. All of a sudden, the mom obviously got super irritated at the fact that her kids were playing and were telling them to sit down and be quiet without giving them anything. So she's plenty entertained on her phone, but she doesn't have anything for them to do. There's no schoolwork bags. It wasn't like they were being told to, like, here, do your homework. Like, nothing. Just, for no reason, sit down. And it wasn't even, like, nicely. It was like, sit down! Sit down on your pocket. If I have to tell you one more time, I've told you 4 times. Like, it was just constant. And you could just feel the energy in the waiting room, like, shift. From all of us worrying about our own kid and kind of being in our own world to all of us being, like, focused on what the fuck is happening. Like, why? Why do you care? What's going on? And then the cute little guy, the other one that wasn't even hers, started crying and screaming because his friends couldn't play with him anymore and he was just waiting. And the dad of that little guy was kind of like, the fuck? Now my kid's freaking out because you won't let my kid play with your kids, and, like, what's going on? There's nothing, like, wrong happening. Like, what is... So now this dad's extra stressed out, and the mom's still just sitting there. Just sitting there scrolling. Just pops up for a second to yell, then comes back down. Whatever. Until they start standing up and trying to sneak away and whatever. And all I could think the whole time was, holy shit, that used to be me. I'll tell you why. As soon as I take a drink, because I don't want to go into a coughing fit. Kombucha. So, my whole life, I was taught kids should be seen and not heard. And it's, a lot of what most of us were raised on, of you are supposed to be seen, you're not supposed to be heard, you're just this entity, you don't really have a say in what you do, you do exactly as you're told, when you're told, or there's going to be massive consequences and punishments and things taken away from you and blah, 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 right? And unfortunately, that's how I raised my oldest. and my middle for like a little while, but not as long. So my oldest, there's a 6.5 year age gap between him and his next sibling because he was born when I was barely 20 years old. So I was still a kid myself. Like, totally still a kid myself, but even like, just to give you a little bit of nerdiness, your prefrontal cortex, this like decision making part of your brain, doesn't fully develop until you're like 22 or 23. It's the reason why teenagers are so fucking stupid. I love teenagers, but they're dumb. And they have no decision making skills. And it's because their prefrontal cortex hasn't developed. Our brains develop bottom to top and front and back to front. So from here up, we make connections, and then it starts coming this way. So this chunk of your brain is the very last one to develop, and then once it's developed, it's still like another, like I'm barely at an age where my brain is fully developed, essentially, based on neuroscience. Your brain doesn't fully, completely develop until your third decade of life. So if you're like a mom in your mid 20s and you're like, oh, I got it all figured out, actually, your brain hasn't even fully developed yet. So realize that. I wish I would have known. Because I was like, oh, I'm mom and I know everything, and blah, blah, blah. So I was watching this mom and I was remembering me and all of the times that I acted that way with my son, Leo, my oldest. And I was like, oh shit. Because I was always so worried about what other people would think about the fact that I couldn't control my kid. Okay? Total strangers. I was completely mortified. Oh my god, I look like such a bad mom right now. I don't even know how to control my own child. Okay, now, like I said at the very beginning, I didn't even notice the kids. They were not bothering me at all. I used to also be the mom that if other kids were freaking out, I would be like, what the hell? Like, why don't they have control over their kids? Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to get your kid to be quiet. And it wasn't hard for me because my child was terrified of me. And that's what my post earlier today was about. The reason why your kid's listening to you is because he's scared. I was scared of that mom. Like, she was rough and mean. Like, she wasn't threatening them or anything. It was just, like I said, the whole waiting room, the energy completely shifted and was so just like, we were all on edge. We were all worried about what people were going to think. And it was just, it was weird. It was like the whole, she sucked all of the, like, whatever little fun you can have in an ER, she completely sucked it out. Just because I have no idea why. Again, I didn't notice the kids fighting. I didn't notice that there was any, like, reason, except for that she must have been annoyed, or that she was probably thinking what I used to think, which is, oh my god, all these people are thinking that I'm a bad mom because I can't get my kids to be quiet when everyone else is quiet. My son was asleep on my lap while they were playing and didn't care at all. He actually didn't wake up until the cute little guy that I keep referring to, like, started screaming bloody murder because he couldn't play with his friends anymore. So I tell you guys this story because my dad was actually at the ER with me. As I said, I have a nice support system. I was driving to the ER and literally just was like, I need my dad. I have no idea. I'm so out of my fucking depth right now, and I know that I am prone to panic attacks. I am so much better than I ever used to be, but this was an extremely stressful situation, and I was like, I need my daddy, and I have access to my daddy, so I'm calling him, and luckily he was able to leave work and met me at the hospital. And so once we got into the back, sorry, I have to adjust. Once we got into the back room, I was like, oh my god, what was with that mom? And I was like, I used to be that mom. And he's like, yeah, you did used to be that mom. You know, my dad's not one to really, like, beat around the bush. And I was like, yeah, I've done so much work, and I've done all these things, and I can't believe that, like, even up, like, a year and a half ago, I would have totally acted that way. And he kind of chortled, and I was like, what's with the chortle? And he's told me, he's like, last 2 years ago, no, you acted that way when we were in Hawaii. So my father, love him, thank you, Daddy, took my whole family to Hawaii for my 30th birthday last August. So we're talking less than 6 months ago. And we went to Hawaii, and we had a beautiful time. And one of the activities that we did was a bus tour of Kauai, which was the island we were on. When I signed up for the bus tour, I didn't realize that it was like an all-day event. I thought it was like a morning thing and then have lunch and then go back to your hotel. And it was really like a morning thing, have lunch, and then an afternoon thing. Like we were gone for like 6 hours on a bus with a barely 1-year-old, the 3.5-year-old, and then my almost 10-year-old at that point. And as you can assume, my 3.5-year-old was getting bored on this bus, and we didn't have, like, I think we did have our tablet, but he just, like, didn't care. He just didn't want to be on the bus anymore. And my husband is, as much as I love him, not as savvy as me when it comes to the parenting. He still kind of watches what I'm doing to see if it will work. And, we haven't gotten fully on the same page, which is completely fine because I know that as long as I stay in my own lane, that things are going to work out and that I can have conversations with him when I'm really uncomfortable. But I hadn't really noticed it. I also had a horrible sunburn when we were on this bus because I had not been responsible with sunscreen when we had been on a river or on an ocean cruise the day before. So I was totally sunburned, irritated, not comfortable. My toddler's freaking out. And apparently I was not as bad, but still that mom, like, on the bus, like, shh, be quiet, and where everyone was kind of noticing us because we were trying to shush him more than if he had just been allowed to, like, run up and down the aisles, because nobody really would have cared. So the reason why I come on these lives to tell you guys these stories is, one, to let you know that yes, I coach. This is what I do for my living. I teach people how to parent better, but that does not by any means make me like void of making mistakes. Okay, so sometimes it still slips up. Sometimes your old patterns still come up. Sometimes I still notice that I'm like, get up the stairs right now, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I mean, could you please come up the stairs, and that those moments are further and further few and far between, but they still happen, especially when I've been sick. So this last week, once or twice, I caught myself falling into the old pattern. You've been programmed not only since however long you've been a parent, but as long as you've been alive, and then all of your previous lifetimes to parent the way that I described at the beginning. Children should be seen and not heard. In the early ages, like middle ages, kids, as soon as you were old enough to walk, my 3.5-year-old would have been out there like working the field, right? And then we got to the point in like the 1800s where it was much more like shame-based, and that's essentially what this mom was doing, and what I was doing on the bus in Hawaii is shaming. I often tell my clients shushing is the same as shaming, because you don't shush anyone that you respect. Can you remember a time that you were, in a movie theater or whatever somewhere, and they were being really annoying, and what you do is you go shh, and you do that to bring attention to the person and just automatically shame the fuck out of them. And you don't realize that that's what you're doing, but that's exactly what we do every time we shush anybody. We go shh, and you're trying to bring attention to them so that they feel embarrassed and then they stop talking. That's essentially what you do when you're shushing. And it's the same thing that mom was doing. Shh, you need to be quiet, sit down. Sit on your pockets. If I have to tell you one more time to sit down on your pockets, I swear to God, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever it was that she was like, all of a sudden her voice would be quiet enough to like whisper the threat and none of us could hear the threat. But besides that, we all heard everything that she was saying. So I tell you this because so many moms out there that I talk to are like, oh, I don't do that. I'm evolved now. I don't yell. Bullshit. I don't use any timeouts or any consequences like that. No, I'm a peaceful parent. I use positive parenting. Yeah, bitch, so do I. Don't lie to me when you are on the bed having your period and your cramps are killing you. I guarantee you yell. And why does that matter? Why does any of this matter? Because my 10-year-old knows that when I yell, it probably means that I'm really not feeling well because I've had conversations with him. Again, my post earlier, I kind of posted that just in case I couldn't get live today, honestly. But I was able to talk to my husband, and here I am. He's downstairs hanging out with the kids. If you don't have the conversation with your child, especially the one, whoever's the oldest, whoever like had the most of your old parenting style, if you don't have that conversation with them, then they're just always expecting that yelling to come back, and they're like, they don't understand who this new person is, and you're really actually throwing them for a loop, and probably causing a lot of trauma and psychological damage, because whenever you do yell, they're like, oh yep, there she is, I knew she was coming back, I knew it, see, I knew it, it's been like 2 months, but I knew eventually she was going to come back. That's why I keep doing everything that she says that I should do, because I was just waiting for this crazy angry lady to come back. Versus now, my son, we've had the conversation of, look, Leo, I know that this is how I used to parent you. And this is how I used to, I went through, I used to yell, I used to use timeouts, I used to take away electronics. It was very not, I was trying to be Love and Logic-y, but a lot of things that were new, because Love and Logic was written a long time ago, and they haven't updated the book for the age of technology. I would take away his tablet for pretty much anything that he did wrong. Like, if you don't do your homework, you don't get your tablet. Like, all those things, right? So now that I've shifted how I parent, I made sure that I had that conversation with my son, that this is how you should expect me to parent all the time. And when I don't, when I slip back, that is on me. And I will apologize for it. No, don't be calling me. Of course my dad's calling me right now. I'll talk to you in a minute, Daddy. I promise I'll call you back. Hold on. I don't like to decline my dad. But, because he did. He drove all the way up to the hospital. But that's why it's so important. This is what, I'm going to wrap up here real quick so I can call my daddy back. It's really important that you have that conversation with your older children, even your younger children. Even my 3-year-old knows that when I yell, it's because I'm not feeling well or because I'm slipping back. I have to have different conversations because they're different ages. But now my son, both of my sons, they listen to me not because they're afraid of me. They respect me more than they've ever respected me. And I make sure that if I do yell, I immediately apologize. And not only do I apologize, I explain myself. I say, you know what? I am so sorry. That was not okay. I know we don't yell at each other in this house. And I'll explain, my 10-year-old, he's old enough to understand what my period is. I'm on my period, bud. Or I'm about to start my period, and I'm just a little bit overly hormonal, and honestly, I need to go take a nap. I'm really sorry that I yelled and snapped at you. Like, let's work it out, and we'll do whatever, whatever it is that the problem was that came up, we'll work through it, and he'll go off and finish doing his project or doing his chess or whatever it is, and then I will go do my self-care, and then he sees me do what it is that I said I would do as well. So if I say, oh, I'm really sorry, I need to go take a bath, he knows, don't bother mommy in the bath. Like, she's zenning out and trying to get back because he likes the new mommy. He doesn't like it when the old mommy pops back up. And he knows, but he's not always constantly waiting for that old mommy to show up. Which is what was happening before, when I realized that he was kind of still acting the same way around me, even though I was changing. I was like, I don't get it. Why is he still so skittish? Why is he still acting like I'm gonna yell when I'm not doing that anymore? And I realized it was because I hadn't talked to him. I'd had plenty of conversations with my coach. I had plenty of conversations with my husband. I had given my parents books to read so that they could be on the same page. But I hadn't talked to the person that it actually affected the most, which was my kid. And it was because I didn't want to go back down that rabbit hole. I didn't want to go back and relive the mommy that yelled and screamed and freaked out. Like, my voice was always raw because I was just constantly yelling. Could have called me old yeller, honestly. And if I wasn't yelling, I was threatening. And if I wasn't threatening, I was isolating by either putting them away or by just literally walking away because in my head, as long as I wasn't beating my kid, it was a good thing. And if I would get as angry as I wanted to, like, hit them, I would just walk away. And, that's a good coping mechanism, but it's not actually doing anything. So through tons and tons of work and lots of money and lots of inner work and conversations and healing and research and all the things that I've done over the last 18 months, where I'm now teaching other moms to do it because of how much it's changed my own life, I realized along the way that so many people do this massive work and go through the shifts and changes and then still wonder, why are my kids still acting the way that they used to? Can't they see everything that I'm doing? They can, but they're wired for who you were when they were 18 months to 5 years. They just assume you're always going to be like that, and any changes that you make in between, again, up to front, up, right, upstairs, downstairs to upstairs, back to front, is how their brain develops. So here's the amygdala. This is their fight or flight area. This is your fight, flight, freeze, or faint response happens here, and it gets triggered anytime your child is afraid. So if you yell, your child is afraid. If you isolate, your child is afraid. And isolate is timeouts. If you threaten them, your child is afraid. So if your child has been wired to have a fear response for pretty much anything, no matter what, it doesn't matter how much you change, because you're not rewiring them unless you have those conversations. Because now that he's older and has more of this part of his brain, activating, I can have those conversations with him in a more logical way, in a way that, explains to him, this is how I used to be because that's how I thought that you should parent. Or, hey bud, do you want to come sit with me and watch this video of one of my mentors with me? And we are learning together, and he's learning about brain development because I think it's important for children to know about how their own brains work. And he's learning about body development because I explained to him, again, I'm about to, it's not an excuse. We all know PMS happens, and I'm doing everything I can to balance my hormones, but if all of a sudden I snap at him, I can sometimes sit there and think like, what day is it? Oh yeah, my period's gonna be in like 3 days. Okay, and then I'm so sorry. This is what happened. Or maybe it's not my period. Maybe it's just because I'm sick. And then I explain to him, bud, you know what? That was inappropriate of me. I know that we've got rules in this house. And then I hold him to the same standards, right? So if he yells at his brother, then I'll go in there and kind of be the mediator and help him talk to his brother, and we are able to hold each other accountable, because your children mimic everything you do. So if you're screaming and angry and freaking out and throwing tantrums as an adult, then don't be surprised, even like you have no right to be surprised, that your children act the same way. If the way that you respond to your 2-year-old's tantrums is by sending them to timeout and isolating them and yelling at them along the way, then their tantrums are never going to go away. They're just mimicking you. They're just little photocopies of you, and everything that you do, they do the same thing. We like to say, do as I say, not as I do, but it's really that they do as we do. And then they grow up and they've got no connection with you. They feel more and more isolated from you. And then they get to those teen years again. Now they're trying to develop this part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex, the decision making and the understanding really of cause and effect. And they don't know where to go because they as sure as fuck aren't going to talk to you. They can't trust you at all. You're just going to scream at them because they know, because they've got you know, 12 plus years of experience of you yelling at them whenever they did anything wrong, that they didn't understand the consequence. So they're completely confused. They don't know who to turn to. And so you're wondering, why is my teen so isolated? Because you started isolating them when they were 2 years old. And you've continued to do it by either, disregarding their feelings, just completely dismissing the feelings, being, disapproving of those feelings. Or if you're not, maybe you're like, oh yeah, you can feel that way, but then you don't give them what they should do instead. Parenting is fucking hard, guys. I know. I have 3 children. Any of you that have more than 3 kids, like, God bless you. Seriously, like, I kneel to you, because we decided through 3 strikes you're out, and we were done with 3. Even if my daughter had been a boy, my husband was still getting snipped, because we knew that we could not handle more than 3 children, which is a personal choice. But so many people have children and then wonder, why can't they act the way that they're supposed to? Did you act the way you were supposed to? I'm gonna guess no. Are you acting the way that you're supposed to? Gonna guess no. So I get so confused with this mom. Again, for those of you just jumping on, this whole thing was about this mom in this waiting room who was scrolling on Facebook, totally entertained by herself, who then was yelling at her kids to sit down and be quiet, and she had nothing for them to do. She wasn't redirecting them in any positive way. She was just telling them to sit on their pockets and wait for God knows how long while we were in the ER waiting room. Had she had a bag full of stuff and had things for them to do instead, then maybe that would have been more appropriate. But she didn't. She was totally immersed in her phone, just scrolling, and all of a sudden got annoyed and started yelling at her kids because she probably either felt ashamed that they were acting that way, that they were the most rambunctious of all of them, or just was annoyed, or whatever it was that caused her to act that way. And I realized I used to act that way. I still act that way, not often at all, once in a blue moon, but it still happens because we're fighting patterns of not only our lifetime, but previous lifetime, generation upon generation upon generation, has taught our children, shh, shh, sit down, shut up, do as you're told. No, I'm not going to pick you up. In the early 1900s, this guy came out with this pamphlet that said that if you want obedient children, you need to make sure you feed them at a certain time, change their diapers at a certain time, put them to sleep at a certain time, and absolutely, no matter what, don't pick them up when they're crying. The fuck? And then you've got the whole cry it out method that was around, where if you want your child to sleep, you have to let them just cry themselves to sleep so that they'll learn how to soothe themselves. And now we know that that actually causes permanent trauma to the brain of your child. And the doctor that even came up with that has come out multiple times and said that he only said that because he knew that he could make a lot of money writing a book about sleeping. And that's it. Go look it up. Anybody who uses the cry it out method, the doctor who wrote that book has now come back and been like, I didn't know it was going to psychologically traumatize all your kids. I'm sorry. My bad. Oops. And that's it. Oops. You got a whole generation of us who were left in our cribs to cry, and nobody came and picked us up. And then more generations and more, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. So when I tell you guys that I'm trying to teach you pleasurable parenting, to enjoy parenting, sensual motherhood, to use your senses, to mom, to what, do you got that spidey tingly sense? Do you got use your eyes, use your ears, don't just assume you know what's going on when you walk into a flower exploded all over your kitchen sort of thing, the reaction. We're fighting biology. We're fighting patterns that are so ingrained in us that even parenting experts slip back sometimes. Even parenting experts, I got 2 books right here. The Whole Brain Child and No Drama Discipline, two of my most favorite books. There's sections in the back when a parenting expert fails, because even they know that it's not going to happen perfectly every time, because that's just life. You're not going to fight it every time. It's the consistency of being able to do it when you can. Okay? So, for those of you who might want to start this journey, I would absolutely love to be your mentor in this. It is what really lights me up and turns me on, is the idea that we can let our little monsters roam free. That it's okay for the kids waiting in the waiting room to be freaking out. And not even freaking out, they were just playing and being cute and sweet, and it was the mom that was annoyed. Or even if they're freaking out in the grocery store, it doesn't matter. Nobody notices the kids, they notice you. Okay? That's what I wanted. Here we go. Finally, full circle. Nobody notices your kid freaking out in the grocery store. They notice you and how you react to your child or respond to your child freaking out in the grocery store. I've left plenty of carts, guys. Literally have left plenty of carts in the grocery store. Said I'll come back for them. I've had somebody bag my groceries for me while I loaded my kid in the car, pulled to the front, and paid, and they loaded it into the car for me. So there's plenty of solutions to the grocery store freakout. But shh, come on, we just gotta make it through. We just gotta do it. Like, know your kid. Are you bringing them to the store when they're tired? Are you doing things like, this is a lot more than just birthing and being like, oh, it'll be fine. They're just miniature adults, right? That's what a child is, right? They're just supposed to act like me, but like little. No, not at all. They're perfect when they come out. They know exactly what they're doing. They're powerful. They know that they have all the power. They know how to create. They know how to play. They know how to do all the things that most of us as adults have no idea how to do, and we spend tons of money learning how to do again. Because we push it out of them. We force them in these little boxes and into these little containers, and nobody cares that that's what we're doing generation after generation after generation after generation. And then you've got the highest amount of suicides ever. It keeps climbing every 40, like for the last 40 years, the suicide rates like this, depression rates like this, anxiety rates like this, bipolar, autism, any of them. Take your pick. The graph looks like this. The graph looks like that, and you're not doing a damn thing to change it because you think that people are expecting your kids to sit down, shut up, and be quiet. Children should be seen and not heard. Bullshit. Children absolutely should be seen, and I don't care if I hear them. I just don't want to hear another mom shush her child or tell them to sit down when, hey lady, hey Elizabeth, hi everyone, when it's really the moms and the dads, any parent, the grandparent, whoever you are watching this. Take inventory of yourself. Are you acting the way that you expect your child to act, especially in discipline moments? When discipline means to teach? Discipline means to teach, not to punish. That's probably like the biggest point of contention that I have with my husband right now, is that he still has this punishment mind frame sometimes. Like, what are we going to do if he doesn't do this? I don't fucking know. We're going to try something else. I don't need to know what we're going to do right now. It doesn't matter. It's not happening. So, again, if you guys are interested in anything that I said, if you're interested in working with me, I have a few spots open. I also have my Pleasurable Parenting Academy that is open still for people to join, and I would love to help. I would love to just get more women learning, men, parents, just how to enjoy parenting, how to have pleasure parenting, how to use your senses, turn on that sensual motherhood inside of you, and really allow your little monsters to roam free, so that we can stop so much of the cycle that we're perpetuating just by acting the way our parents acted, even though we say we would never act that way. And even all of you out there that are like, oh, look at me, I don't act that way. Oh, no, I don't do that. Whatever. You do it sometimes, or you used to, and you never talked about it to your kids, and they're still wondering, when are you going to change? Like, when are you going to go back? They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And until you're willing to have the really difficult conversations where you admit all the fucked up shit you did before to your child, and then take responsibility, claim the authority in your life, and set new boundaries, they're just going to be continuously waiting for that shoe to drop. And when it does, they're going to be like, oh, yep, there it is. Was waiting for it. So, I will let you all go now. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave my link below for those of you who might want to jump on a call with me and want to learn more about how it is that I can help. And thanks for watching. Feel free to share this out with anybody if you enjoyed it. Okay, love you all.